Breaking down an incredibly eventful week around a Big 12 football.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. This show is brought to you today by FanDuel. Check it out, FanDuel. Best time to get some bets in. Check it out. All right, now let's talk. We are going to talk Arizona football. We are going to talk the Big 12. We are going to talk a lot of different things. But first and foremost, Arizona undefeated in Big 12 play. Not a lot of teams can say that right now, so take that. But obviously, I know it was the bye week, so ASU fans, save your points. All right, but anyways, let's go around to the Big 12 and just talk about where exactly everything is, because there is a lot to digest. There is a lot to break down. All right, now, the first one that let's talk about is the best team in the conference is clearly Utah. They were the preseason conference pick. They are clearly the best team. A big reason why is that it is that Utah philosophy where you're going to be able to run the ball. They run the ball incredibly well. They're going to be deep across the line. And the one thing about them too is that you also have a quarterback that you have a backup quarterback now that you can actually win games with. Last year, when they didn't have Cam Rising, they were woefully exposed, and I mean woefully exposed. That is not the case this year. You obviously have a good quarterback in play, and not only do you have a good quarterback in play, Cam Rising, assuming he's going to be back for Arizona, because of course that's just how it goes. Then you got Dorian Singer, who had a nice little game for him, 7 catches, 95 yards. A very, very good, very good football player. And you just watch him against Oklahoma State. Now, again, I get that Oklahoma State came back, but watching that game, Utah clearly looked like the better team. I think they're the best combination in the league of physicality on defense and having enough on offense to be able to make things work. I am curious, like I said, to see how ex-Arizona wide receiver Dorian Singer continues to play out, because he's obviously a stud. That's going to be a fascinating one to watch as well. So there is that, but I think Utah is clearly the best team in the conference, and I don't know that it's really even that close. All right, now let's talk about the team they played, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's offense leaves a lot to be desired for me. Ollie Gordon's obviously good, but he hasn't had he hasn't gotten off to a gangbusters start this season by any means. So that's obviously not a good thing for Oklahoma State fans, but I'm going to keep going back to it. Alan Bowman isn't good. I don't know what else to say. He's just not good. He's okay, but that is not the kind of quarterback that you're going to win a lot of games with. He's just, in a Mike D offense. You need to be able to throw the ball, and he just can't throw the ball well enough to be able to make things happen. That to me is just somewhat of the issue. So that's kind of where we're at with that. So that was an interesting game. Like I said, Oklahoma State's obviously good. That was an interesting game though to watch and just see how that one all did play out, because again, it did not look, Utah clearly looked like the better team. And so there is that. All right. Now let's talk about a team that I think has been a little surprising with how bad they have been, and that's Kansas. I like Lance Leopold. I think Lance Leopold has done a very good job at different places. Probably should have taken that Washington job, because he lost his coordinator to Penn State, and that has brought that offense into a world of hurt. Up, in the front, Jalen Daniels was supposed to be a really, really good player. That has just not really been the case. He has struggled mightily this season. Then Devin Neal, also on the other side, was supposed to be one of the better running backs in the country. That's just not been the case as well. I don't really know that their issues are correctable, because they just every team they've played this year, they've just looked absolutely atrocious. And I think that's a little bit of the problem, is that every team they played, they've just looked awful. Really? Well, no other way to really put that one. So there's obviously that with both of those teams. Now, with when it comes to whether they can get better or not, I don't see it. I've watched them quite a bit. I don't see it. I think that this is going to be a long season for them. This is also too, sometimes when you realize too, when you lose a coach, an assistant coach, how good those assistant coaches sometimes are. And obviously the guy they lost was an incredibly good assistant coach. So you got to certainly keep that in mind. But Kansas has not looked good at all. As a matter of fact, I think that they are how do I put this? They're in a lot of trouble. We'll just put it to you like that. Now, looking at another team that is fairly solid, that I think we need to talk about, Texas Tech. Now, somebody close to ASU told me that this was going to be a brutal game for ASU, and it was. I don't care that it was a 7-point victory. It felt like more than that. Texas Tech was in control pretty much from start to finish. They were able to run the ball, and I think what you found out too is that ASU is going to have a difficult time throwing the ball when it really needs to throw. Sam Leavitt is he's a solid quarterback when you factor in everything, but he's going to have a lot of throws that are going to leave you scratching your head, leave you wondering exactly what he just did. And I think, like I said, I think that's going to be a problem for this squad pretty much all season. I don't really see that changing. Cam Skadboo's obviously really good. The defense isn't bad. Excuse me, we're talking ASU. We're going to get to ASU in a second. But Texas Tech, they got a really good running game. You're able to put points on the board. You're also able to defensively, you're able to do a fairly good job stopping the run. That's a good team. Texas Tech's a good team. That to me is going to be somewhat of the choice when it comes to Arizona. I'm not going to judge them entirely off the Utah game. I'm going to judge them in a great way off of that Texas Tech game, because that is the game that I think that they need to be able to we're going to really find out where Arizona's at when it comes to that, because I think Texas Tech is a very good barometer for where these teams are, because again, they're clearly good at this point, but I think they're also not to the point where it's like, oh man, we can't mess with them at all. That's where, to me, it's going to be fascinating. So we will definitely find that one out. Now, I think a couple other things too that we need to talk about is ASU. Listen, ASU is definitely improved from last year. There's no doubt about it. Dillingham has done a nice job. Dillingham has done a nice job upgrading the roster across the board. The problem, though, is that this was the first this was the first good Power 4 team that they have played. Wyoming obviously speaks for itself. Then you've also got Mississippi State. Mississippi State's terrible. They got boat raced by Toledo. That is not good. So they suck. And Texas State, that was a solid win, but again, it's still Texas State. You played Texas Tech, and Texas Tech was just clearly better than you. That was a game where it looked like if you played them 10 times, they are probably winning 8 or 9 of those games. I don't care about when you say, oh, well, you're under penalties, this and that. Penalties are part of football. It happens on both ways. I don't really care about that. But ASU, I think, is going to be fairly middling, which is certainly still an improvement. But for all the ASU fans that thought that this was going to be a ranked team, no, they are not that good, nor will they be that good. They just don't have the passing game. They don't have the passing prowess, and I think that's going to be an issue for them pretty much. I think that's going to be an issue for them pretty much all season. So I don't really see that one changing at all for ASU. But again, they're improved, but still leave a lot to be desired, and I think that's something that we can't really look past. Okay, now Now, one thing that now we're going to continue to talk about some of this, get back to some good teams as well. Guess we'll then talk about Arizona. But first, we got to talk about 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy. Go to 5hourenergy.com. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE to receive 20% off of your order. Check it out with Locked On or 5 Hour Energy. Again, everybody's used 5 Hour Energy. Everybody knows somebody. So 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast. Whether you have a long list to do for work or some do-yourself projects at home, tackle 5 Hour Energy shot so you can check everything off your list. If you're like me, you always have a large list of projects from home when you get your supplies for the project. Do not forget the essential supply, 5 Hour Energy. Go to 5hourenergy.com. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Okay, now let's talk about some of the other teams in the league. Let's talk about Colorado. They stink. I know that Baylor essentially gave that game away. Dave Aranda I would absolutely fire Dave Aranda. That was absolutely atrocious play calling. I don't really know. First of all, they had a chance to put the game away. And so what you do is you essentially just run 3 incredibly predictable plays to set it up for a field goal kicker that's not good. And of course, he missed on the road. Duh. And then you decide to go bump and run press coverage off almost a Hail Mary. And you got lucky once that the pass was dropped by the Colorado receiver, but he didn't drop it again on the second choice. That was probably the worst end of a game situation that I have seen in a long, long time. That was atrocious. That was pitiful. That's the kind of game that seals your fate as a head coach. That was atrocious. I don't know any other way to put it, to be honest with you. That was just an absolutely disgusting performance. And again, I would imagine Dave Aranda is going to be fired, and that's probably going to be the nail in the coffin because again, you don't give away a game like that and really recover from that. And I don't think that Dave Aranda has the cachet to be able to have that. So I would imagine that he is going to be fired, as he should, because that was as bad an end of game situation as I think I've about ever seen. It was atrocious. Now, Colorado, they're now 3-1, but they stink. They're not good. Baylor's not good, and Baylor kind of pushed them around pretty much all game. Sure, Shadur and the wide receivers are really good, but the defense isn't good at all. The lines are not good against any team, against any team that's strong up front. They are going to get pushed around, and they're going to get pushed around in a big way. It's a team that's 3-1, and they're going to start losing a lot of games. They got UCF coming up, then they got Kansas State, then they got Arizona. This is, like I said, this is not a good football team. I would imagine too that Deion Sanders is probably going to start making his exit strategies here sooner than later, because again, he is Deion. He's a guy that's all talk and really no backing it up. He's all for accountability, but then when his kid attacks a security guard, well, I didn't know about it, or I don't know what's going on there. It doesn't matter that 5 different agencies found my kid to be responsible, and I initially said it. Just not a good dude. That's just the way it is. So now when it comes to Colorado, though, they've got a bear of a schedule coming up, and I would imagine that they are going to lose a lot of those games. So there is that. Now, one of those teams that they're going to be playing, Kansas State. Now, Kansas State obviously got destroyed by BYU. I ask you this question. Do you think that there is a chance that maybe Arizona broke Kansas State before this game? I don't know. I don't know really the case. I'm just kidding, obviously. But Kansas State, the thing about them that we definitely know at this point is that Avery Johnson can't throw the football. Why teams don't do exactly what BYU did and just have a spy on him and then let him try to beat you through the air. I don't know. But, BYU did it, and obviously the K-State offense went into a total shell. He can't throw. And if you've got a quarterback that can't throw in today's day and age, that's going to be a huge issue for you. That's something that I think as an Arizona fan, you got to say that Arizona left some stuff on the table right there with Kansas State. But again, Kansas State was going to beat Arizona regardless. I'm not saying that. But that running game becomes a lot less potent if you've got a quarterback who, well, like I said, if you've got a quarterback who can't throw the football, and they have a quarterback who can't throw the football. So there's obviously that. But there are going to have some games coming up where I expect them to take care of business, like against Kansas State, like against Colorado. That they're a bad matchup for Colorado because they're going to be able to just push Colorado around. The Colorado line is not good. Colorado's not good. Kansas State, I expect to roll. But at the same time, if you're a Kansas State fan, you got to be very concerned because that is not a good BYU team that you played. Or maybe it's a solid BYU team that was better than expectations. But still, the manner in which you just got annihilated was not good. And that's something that I think you've got to really be concerned about if you are a K-State fan, is how exactly all of that went down. Now, then you got UCF. UCF's interesting. Now, we're all UCF fans against Colorado coming up this week. Obviously want UCF to win that game. I like Gus Malzahn. I like Gus Malzahn a great deal. Not only do I like Gus Malzahn, I think that he is a coach that he knows basically what's going on here. He is a guy that I think you look at his track record, I mean, it's good. There's obviously been some moments, but I think with KJ Jefferson, I think with Penny Boone, I think obviously you got a two-headed running back mantra there. They're a good team, and they got Colorado this week at home. I expect them to boat race Colorado. I think that that's going to be a game that is going to be over very quickly. I think it's a tough matchup for Colorado, and honestly, UCF is a good football team. There's really no other way to put it. They are a good football team. How good? We don't know yet. I mean, that's one of those teams that you don't know just quite how good they are yet, but you can just watch them and you can tell sometimes teams just kind of look the part. UCF just kind of looks the part. And that's something that, obviously I think that you got to keep a very close eye on. So we will see how that one does play out. But overall, if you're an Arizona, or if you're a Golden Knights, Golden Flash, whatever it is, you got to feel pretty good about where you are. We will see, obviously, how that one plays out. Now, BYU, every now and then it shows that some of the preseason prognosticators don't know what they're talking about, and BYU is certainly one of those. BYU is solid. I don't know that they're great, but it's hard to watch BYU for more than a couple minutes and be like, okay, that is not a solid football team. That is a solid football team. And it's a team that I think is, could probably win 7-8 games this year. We'll see. But, that's always a school that I've always thought should generally always be solid at football. There's no real reason that they shouldn't be. And you saw and you've seen so far this year that they've been able to really put together some good stuff. So we'll see how that one plays out. But like I said, I think that I think it's a solid football team. I really do. And like I said, we'll see how this one plays out. But overall, so far, so good if you're a BYU fan. Now, there's a couple teams. Houston is absolutely deplorable. That is an atrocious football team. And not only is it an atrocious football team, it's a team that I think you're like, you can almost kind of chalk that one up as a victory on the schedule. They're terrible. Cincinnati's obviously not good either. West Virginia has not been, I think, what people thought that they could be. And, Iowa State is what it is. But overall, this is a fun conference. Now, it's not a powerhouse conference, but it's a fun conference with a lot of capable teams. And I think that's what makes this enjoyable, is that it's like I said, there's a lot to like about Big 12 football and just kind of the entertainment value that it does bring, because it brings a lot of entertainment value. And honestly, that's what I'm about. I'm about being entertained. I want to be entertained. I expect to be entertained. And so far, they've been able to do just that. So that is obviously a good thing for Arizona fans. Just the fact, too, that we get to be entertained. And so there is that. Now, we're going to talk about Arizona here in a second. But first, FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to look at odds. All right, now, we have all kinds of fun stuff at FanDuel. Now, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. But the great thing about it, too, this is the time you want to be here. You want to be able to, again, I'm a big fan of getting into futures because I like the theory of it. I like looking at futures. I like saying, yeah, that looks cool, whatever the case may be. And FanDuel says, we are here for you. Come check us out. Check it out, though, FanDuel. What's really cool about it, too, is that, obviously your money is good. You don't have to deal with somebody that you don't know. This isn't that time anymore. So, again, check it out, FanDuel. FanDuel.com. Oh, excuse me. I forgot the overlay. FanDuel.com. Again, what's really cool about it, too, is we are in the best time of the year to bet. Check it out, FanDuel. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk a little bit now about Arizona and where they stack it. First of all, Arizona is undefeated in conference play. So there is that. We do have a blank slate. I think that's something that we've got to keep in mind here. Arizona football has a blank slate. So let's embrace the blank slate. What say all of you? Arizona goes into Utah, obviously, in Research Stadium. I don't know that anybody's really predicting a great win there, but we shall see. But I think with the thing about Arizona is there's nowhere to go but up. I think what I'm hoping, though, too, is that, and again, this is where the I think, people need to look at it and say, the offense is the problem right now. And I don't care how it really happened. The defense was really good against NAU. Obviously, it wasn't against New Mexico. But the offense was the problem against Kansas State. Now, like we talked about, that the dam broke in the second half against Kansas State. But that's also, I think, something, too, that you got to remember. And you got to say to yourself, well, yeah, it did break. Arizona should have been better. You don't have a Noah Fafita. You don't have a Tetaroa McMillan. You don't have those type of players and then struggle in the manner in which you do and expect the defense to be able to pick you up. Again, going into the year, defense was where we were, defense is where we were at. You're like, all right, just kind of be middle of the road. And against Kansas State and against New Mexico, or against NAU, the defense was good enough to win. It's been the offense. Arizona has got to correct the offense, and that's, to me, that's on Dino Babers. Dino Babers has to be able to step his game up. He inherited a lot of talent, and so far he has looked like the game has passed him by, and it looks like it's passed him by about 8 decades. He's got to be able to get better at what Arizona's doing. And Arizona right now is offensively, they look totally lost with quality. Like I said, Quali Conley, the running game has been okay, but the passing game has just not been there. And again, what T-Mac can do, but where are those other guys? That's, to me, where you really need to get this one going is those guys, Jeremiah Patterson, Kean Burnett, dudes like that you've got to just say, all right, we got to get you going. Under any measures necessary, because again, Arizona, we talked about this. They've got to have a top 15 offense. You return all of those players, you have got to have a stellar offense. And so far that has obviously just not been the case. So Arizona has got to be better in that. And there's no reason that they really shouldn't be better. I mean, let's just be honest here. So there's obviously that. So that's kind of where we are. That's kind of where we are at with that. We will find out though, because like I said, it's a clean slate. If Arizona's competitive against Utah, cool. Then maybe Arizona's in a little bit better shape than we thought. But if they get destroyed by 80 points, then I think you're looking at Texas Tech and you're saying, all right, that's going to be the game for Arizona, where you've really got to be able to figure that one out and see where everything stands. I don't know. Like I said, it's going to be an interesting couple weeks here for Arizona, but I do think that the bye week was good for the Wildcats. I'm excited to see exactly where Arizona is, because this is also the time too where you've got to unload the clip. You've got to be able to say, all right, now listen, we got to show everything at this point. There's no more messing around. Not that there should have been, but the stuff you saw in camp, you have to be able to showcase there. Okay, now tomorrow we're going to come up, or we're going to talk a little bit then about what expectations should be for the Utah game, where Arizona is in all of this, and what are realistic expectations at this point? Because I think that's a fair question to ask. But as always, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A, and we will be back with you tomorrow. Again, blank slate, undefeated. Let's go, Cats.